Okay, our team name is called Team Woolly Willy, and my name is Sierra.
I'm Ian.
I'm Nick.
I'm Julian.
I'm Trent.
Please enjoy our elevator pitch video.
Plastic pollution in our oceans is a serious and urgent issue threatening our environment. Most people know about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a massive accumulation of trash in the ocean twice the size of Texas. But do you know about the teeny tiny particles that are also a huge contribution to the plastic contamination? Because they are so small, they are especially difficult to remove from the ocean. They also pose unique threats to marine life because they are so small they can be absorbed through the cell walls of sea animals. This has adverse effects on their health and ultimately contaminates our food supply as well. Roughly $400 million was donated annually to marine conservation from 2010 to 2015, so we know that people are already very driven to donate and fund ocean restoration solutions. Unfortunately, there is currently no effective way to separate these tiny evasive plastic particles from our ocean water.
Wouldn't it be nice if there was something like a plastic magnet that we could sweep through the oceans to attract all these small particles and separate them from the water? We use a unique adaptation of a ferromagnetic filtering process to do just that. Now, we will show you how Woolly Willy can help us improve the health of our oceans and marine life and prevent toxic contamination of our own water and food supply.
Alright, so we're a group of STEM students from Boise State University, and our team name is Woolly Willy, Saves the World. So just to get started off, most ocean cleanup projects work with focusing on large pieces of plastic in the ocean, and this is a great first step, but it does nothing to address the microplastics around the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. In fact, 8% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch by weight is composed of microplastics. So in order to remove these microplastics, we would need to use a filter. So some options that we considered would be distillation or reverse osmosis or mechanical, but these don't offer the benefits of a ferrofluidic filter of being inexpensive and high volume.
So first off, we're going to show you the ferrofluidic process up close, and after we're done here, we're going to take you over there to show you our unique adaptation of it to scale it up. So the ferrofluidic process, we were inspired by a science experiment done by a teen in Ireland named Fionn Fieri, I think his name is. So we're going to start with our ocean water, and I'm going to pollute it with our microplastics.
So 45% of the plastic in the ocean is composed of fishing equipment. So we're using small pieces of this synthetic string, which is non-polar. And the next step in the process is to add non-polar oil to the water. So there, yeah.
So the oil is also non-polar, and when we stir it up, you can see that the microplastics, the ones that Alex made it into the water, are now gathered in the oil. Because of their non-polarity.
So the next step would be to add iron from Woolly Willy.
So yeah, so this is where Woolly Willy comes in. With the time constraints of this competition, we looked everywhere for iron filings, which we could get easily online, but the only place we could get them locally was at the toy store.
Except we were able to get a lot of it out of any kind of sand, so you can literally extract iron from the beaches and be able to use that. So when we add the iron, just like the plastic, the iron will congregate with the oil. You can see that. And then all you have to do is place a magnet and extract all three of the pollutants at the same time.
We might need more iron, sorry.
So part of the problem here is that this is not a very fine grain of iron, and what we actually were able to extract from sand, it works a lot better in actually making a ferrofluid. But it was a lot easier to get a hold of this.
In this heavier iron, the gravity overcomes the polarity of the oil.
So obviously we do not want to be pouring oil and iron filings into our oceans to add to the pollution. So that's where our unique adaptation comes in. Trent, do you want to take it over? And we brought our extra Willy Willies for you guys.
This is our static display of how a microplastic ferrofluidic filter can potentially be scaled up and used in an industrial style process. The first step is dirty ocean water contaminated with microplastics, but filtered of macroplastic and larger objects come through here, coming into the ferrofluid that's waiting and bubbling and mixing, waiting for it. It mixes here where the ferrofluid binds to the microplastics, where it flows down over this wheel. The wheel is magnetic, so the ferrofluid and the microplastic bind to the wheel, coming across here, allowing clean water to flow over into this container. The ferrofluid and microplastic travel across onto a belt where it's pulled away from the magnet, causing it to fall onto a mechanical filter, which is the first stage of a multi-stage mechanical filter process, with the result being clean water and reusability of the iron. Nick?
Annually, there's a $400 million ocean cleanup industry. With all that money, you would think someone would have a solution, but no one does yet. And so that's where our solution comes in, where we use our ferrofluidic filter device to filter out ocean plastics to combat microplastics in the ocean as a whole. Thank you. Question?
After you've separated the water and the iron filings, what happens to the plastics?
So the idea was that it would go through mechanical filters, and because the oil is way finer than the plastic and the iron filings, they could be separated, and once the oil is gone, then the plastic and the iron fillings are not binded together anymore and can be easily removed with magnets.
Are you, to clarify, are you asking how we dispose of the plastic that's been extracted from
You
the
know, if
ocean?
you don't dispose of it, can you think of a beneficial use?
Well, we're hoping a lot of it can be recycled, but one of for the scope of our project, we were mainly focusing on removing the plastic from the water. And a specific application that we were focusing on that we didn't get to mention is that we want to hook these filters to the bottom of the barges that are already working on cleaning up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So while they pick up macroplastics, they're also able to filter through and gather microplastics. And the disposal is outside of our scope of our project, but we would assume that they would go wherever the macroplastics go, preferably recycled, but we were focused on getting it out of the water.
That's good, thank you.
Any other questions?
How large might this be? I have a barge, okay, so how large is what you're going to put
So
out?
we were thinking about how to scale it into a more contained process, and we were thinking you would have to start kind of smaller to like build up and experiment. There's still a lot of research and development that would need to be done. We were thinking a more contained process would involve maybe like electromagnets and something that works along the lines of like a car water pump first, where it's like 7,500 gallons per hour maybe. And especially because this process requires like a low pressure, low velocity flow rate through the pipe. And the idea is to focus on specifically the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, like in even dense areas, because that's where the most microplastics are going to be. Yeah.
How are you going to make money doing this?
Initially, we addressed the fact that there's already a $400 million industry based on donations, based on angel investors, based on people who care about the environment and the ocean's health currently. So I don't think funding in this particular case is as big of a deal because it's already proven that there is funding for this type of cleanup in the ocean.
So you're going to go in and get somebody else's little piece of that money?
Hopefully in a joint effort with efforts that are already out there cleaning up macroplastics, the bulk of what is out there, we can build onto their solutions with our solution.
One of the big holes in the ocean cleanup solutions that are currently being implemented is that they don't have any way to address these microplastics, and it is a desperate need. How much did we say? I think 8% of the mass of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. 8% of that mass is made up of microplastics, which is a lot considering how small those microplastics are, and they're especially dangerous, like we said, because they can be absorbed through cell membranes. So we're hoping that some of that funding will be prioritized towards microplastic cleanup because we've been in such desperate need of a solution.
There's also other like weird ways that could even out costs, like potential reusability of the microplastic, and the fact that iron from sand could be a byproduct of like silicon development.
Or machining.
Okay, that's time. Thank you.
Thank you.